You're welcome to join us. If you're also a specialist of a dig, by the way.
Thank you, Nina. It's time to move to our next speaker, next presenter.
All right, let me stop sharing my screen.
Yes, and our next speaker is Maria Usacheva from the Institute of Linguistics, Russian Academy of Sciences, and she will be talking about quasi-spontaneous speech as a specific genre, experimentally modeled situation of selling and its spontaneous correlate, Beserman Udmurt case. Maria, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Can you see my screen?
It's not full.
It's not in full screen mode, right?
Yes.
I just try to make it in full screen mode. Okay. Can you see the full screen mode?
Now it's perfect.
Okay. Thank you very much. Actually, what I will be talking about today, it's not an experiment in the sense which the experiments the other people talked about today, because I didn't check any hypothesis, right? It is usually it is well, it is obligatory in psycholinguistics to have a hypothesis which has to be checked during the experiment, but actually, as a field linguist, I also have another important task, namely to gather examples for constructions which appear in the corpora quite rarely, right? Because sometimes we have such constructions which are rare, and our task is to gather them and as much as possible to decrease the influence of intermediate language, right? Because the people I will be talking about today are bilinguals with Russian, right? And when we and the intermediate language we use while speaking to them is actually Russian. And if we give the Russian stimuli, it is often the case that they just copy the constructions which are used in Russian. That's why we prefer to use non-verbal stimuli. In these cases, today I will talk about how we use pictures. But in some sense, it is still an experiment in a wide sense, because actually we fix we do fix some variables. Namely, we model the experiment in such a way that these speakers have to use constructions with contrast. Contrastive topic, so contrastive focus. We do so, we control the activation and reactivation of reference, and just we make them to verbalize the so-called quantified. I will, just in a few seconds, I will say what it is. So actually, the experiment I will talk about took place in Udmurt, Russian Federation, in summer 2021. And people we work with are Beserman people. They speak the idiom which is called Beserman. Well, 2 weeks ago, it was an Udmurt variety. Now it has been decided to treat it as a distant language. So now they are speaking Beserman, but actually it is quite close to northern varieties of Udmurt. Okay, and the constructions we actually wanted to get are the so-called pseudo-partitive and partitive constructions. Namely, we wanted to get examples like a cup of tea or a bottle of milk, which denote amount of some substance. And we also wanted to get the constructions where the speakers will be talking about the tea, about tea in general, right? Just a cup of tea. And the cases when the speakers will be talking about about particular tea. Like, please give me a cup of your famous tea, your very tasty tea. It's the tea you always make. All right, and actually we work with Beserman speakers for 19 years already, but and we have a relatively large Beserman corpora, but we have very small amount of such constructions in Beserman corpora, because actually it is a quite specific type of constructions, which is not very often used in everyday communication. And our corpora consist mainly of narratives and of contemporary dialects mainly. It is often the case, as Ilya Sergeant, who wrote a recent paper about these constructions in typological view, told us, and it's really not very. They're really not very often. Right. In my talk, I will use the following termini. If we look at such constructions like 1 cut of silver, we will see that there are 3 members of it. Right. We have the numeral, here 1. We have the noun which is used as a measure. I will name it the quantifier, and we also have this substance noun silver, which is measured. I will name it quantified. Right? Actually, when we are in the field and we want to get some constructions which do not appear in colloquial speech very often, it is very useful to think actually which types of texts, right, we can get them from, right? Because if we if they are not very often in colloquial speech, maybe they are characteristic for specific types of text, right, for specific genres. Right, because actually it is the case that in different type of texts you you can see different constructions, right? And if we will think about it, maybe the first thought will be it will be instructions, right? Like take half a kilo of flour and a pack of butter, something like that, right? And maybe the next context will be requests. So please give me a kilo of that brown sugar, right? And when we think about where we where such types of texts can be produced, perhaps the first thought will be that, we can collect recipes, right? Because take half a kilo of flour and make a cake. And please give me a kilo of that sugar. Actually, maybe people talk like that when they are in a shop, right? And they make requests to the seller. Okay. We can ask our speakers to give us certain recipes, to provide certain recipes, and we can also take this speech in a shop and in a Beserman village. We actually did it, and let's look at the results. Okay, when we collected the recipes, actually, we got some examples of the constructions we needed. Like here, we put 2 buckets of warm butter in the kneader, right? That's Perfect, that's just what we need. Well, but actually it appeared that while telling us these recipes, Beserman speakers did not name the quantity, right? Actually, the only thing the speaker here, the only construction we wanted the speaker here used is these two buckets of warm water. Because then she says, and then you take the yeast, and she doesn't name the quantity, right? And then you take salt, butter, sugar, soda, and no quantity, right? So she totally lies the quantity, and it's quite an often case, right? Because even because while these people cook, they actually don't count anything. They just know from their everyday life how they should do it. So that's the so that's the one thing. And actually, when we taped the speech in the shop, these are very, very good texts, brilliant, but actually we did not become much constructions we wanted, because, well, people, first of all, people just point, like, give me that. They don't tend to say, give me 2 kilos of sugar. No, give me that, right? And then actually, even in this shop, they don't mention the exact quantity. And it is very, very typical for them. Even when the seller asks how much do you need, they say this word, they use this word kenyake, which means some. Well, give me some. And then the seller takes something, for example, sweets, and puts them, some of them, and then she puts more and more, and is waiting for the reaction. And then the person says enough, right? So they don't tend to use the exact quantity. And actually, an interesting thing that turned out is that actually maybe the reason, one of the reasons why they do that is that actually the main aim when they go to the shop is not to buy the goods. They just want to communicate with the seller. And because it is always like that, they turn in the shop, then they discuss the weather, then they ask, how is it going in your life? Well, actually, here it's quite a typical fragment of the tapes when a person enters and asks, do I have a macro? And then they begin to discuss how to cook it. And they discuss it very, very, very long. And then actually the person takes some, we don't know how much fish, how much mackerel she took, and goes away. Actually, she took everything that was in this shop. There wasn't too much mackerel, presumably. Okay, so and that's the reason that actually here we have example 7 with the type of constructions we wanted to get. 1 kilo 600 grams of salt. Well, but they are not frequent at all, actually. So when we try to get the constructions from natural texts, we failed. Okay, and actually the reason why we failed, because actually the recipes they get, it is right, it is rather a narration. They just tell how to do it. But it's not an instruction. It's not of the type take such and such amount of this substance, right? And actually what we had in the shop were other colloquial dialects than a number of requests. Well, then we thought, what if we model the text of these types where we will fix the quantified, right? So that they will, and the amount, of course, right? What if we do so that they will, that the speakers will have to verbalize how much and what they want to get? Okay. One thing which we did, it is not an experiment, it was an interview. We went to a person who cooked many pies and just not much food for a local fest. She was cooking for the whole day. We went with the camera, and I asked her to explain me how to cook these dishes, right? Actually, we also, so I stimulated her verbally in Beserman, right? Actually, we also got several examples we wanted to, but actually, most often she and the other women who was cooking did not name the concrete quantity. For example, when I asked how much ham should one put in the dough, they said, well, it depends how much rutabagas you have, so how much flour. Then I asked, well, if you have one bucket, they said, oh, we don't take so much, right? And when I insisted, they again used this word some, right? For making dough, I took some rye flour. And when I insisted again, I took it with 1 spoon. It is an interesting construction, right? But here they use the instrumental case. And it means roughly, right? It is a very interesting construction, but actually it is not the construction of the type we wanted to study. Okay. And here is an example that they used another type of construction, which means roughly, which with the split term. But they refused to answer the questions about the exact amount, right? Then we decided to model a situation of selling, right? A situation in the shop. And the method we used was the so-called referential communication tasks method. It is quite well known in psycholinguistics, especially most often it is used while one conducts experiments with children, because they are quite easy. Right, the children do not get tired quickly with it. It was first described first offered in late 60s, but as Olga Fedorova writes in her article, it was actually modified since then, and actually it is a very promising tool which we used in the field quite often in order to collect a good amount of examples of rare constructions. It works very well. Okay, how does it look like? Here are the photos from the experiment. Here we have the 2 persons. One is named the director, and the other is named the matcher. The director is here on the left. She is looking at the black and white photo of a shop. And one of the linguists is putting the cards with goods in front of her on the shelves which are on this poster, right? And the second person, which cannot see the third person, they cannot see each other. The second person has to repeat the actions of the linguist. So the director, the first person on the left, has to give an instruction what to do, so where to put these cards. They have their identical numbers of cards, right? And here you can see some of the stimuli we used, not all of them, but some. Well, what we modeled here, we had, first of all,
Maria, I'm sorry,
right?
you have 5 minutes left.
5 minutes left, thank you very much. Okay, here we have the goods which are different in color, in size, in length, right? So we model contrast, right? Okay, and actually what we had were the cards of a boy, a girl, and an old woman, who were put in front of the speakers, and the cards with goods first were put on the shelf, and then some of them were taken and were put in these bags. Right, it was done in order to reactivate the stimulant. Okay, and actually, it is often the case that the speakers choose one of two strategies. The first is the narrative one, right? Then it's like the boy comes to the shop and buys certain tea, right? 2 bags of tea, and buys 2 bags of green tea, for example, right? Actually, we can see that it is actually what the discourse they produce, it is not natural, right? It is not like a colloquial dialect. Olga Fedorova calls this discourse, this type of discourse, quasi-spontaneous, and she's right, because actually it's peculiarities, right? In example 14, you can see this topicality of the quantified. We're talking about black tea, and then what about black tea? They are moving it left. The default. So the default word order will be on the right, right? Black tea, 2 packs. The default order will be 2 packs black tea, right? We have this contrastive focus on quantified, because we have green tea and black tea, right? We have the contrast focused on the numeral, right? Because we model it so that, for example, the boy bought 1 pack of tea and the girl bought 2 packs of tea of the same kind. Right, and we also have actually those types of ellipses which do not appear in spontaneous speech, because they have to repeat. They have to repeat what they said several times, and when they repeat, they elide they can even elide the quantifier or the quantified. Here you can see 2 packs of that. We do not have such examples in our corpora of natural spoken speech. Well, and actually the one who studies syntax, I can see that actually what we have here are practically the tests for consistency, right? Because that's this substitution with pro, topicalization, and so on. And these referential communication task methods is a very good tool to get them, because well, when people translate such tests, right, in questionnaires, they get tired very quickly. And here, they do not get tired. All the speakers I work with love such experiments. They say that it's like playing. All right, they do not get tired, and we can be sure that we, at least we decreased the influence of Russian. Okay, so actually, when we look at texts we get during referential communication task experiments, is that actually, right, I didn't mention that actually that the second strategy is instructional, right? Some speakers prefer to say the boy goes to the shop and buys something, and some speakers prefer to say take 2 bags of green tea and put them on the particular shelf. It's like an instruction, and actually it's the 2 types of discourse we expected our target constructions to be found in, right? And actually we got more than 200 of examples during the experiments with 6 speakers. Well, and in our corpora we have about 6 examples. So it's and we here we have examples with of different types, with pro-substitution, with topicalization, with contrastive focus, contrastive topic, and that's very useful. Okay. Well, and actually,
I'm sorry, Maria. I think
sorry,
we ran out of time, so maybe if you could go to the conclusions.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, here you can see the properties of the text, and the conclusion will be that sometimes it is useful to use experimental methods to gather the data, but you have to know exactly what type of texts you will become, and then you will become many interesting examples. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thank you for a very interesting presentation. Thank you. I have a just very basic question about how your participants reacted to these settings. How did you frame it that they will need to describe something in a picture or just move things? So did they, like, how was it fine to them?
Well, first they were surprised, of course, but we told them that, well, we want to see how they understand each other when they do not see each other, right? Well, and it was sufficient actually for them, and then they understood that it is much better than questionnaires, because after we worked about 4 years, the speakers told that we won't work with you anymore because we are very tired of translating this. And actually the framework we work with now is that first we look at the corpora and take examples from there. Then we run experiments of this kind and take a pool of examples, and then of course we do not refuse from questionnaires, but in such a way we reduce, we significantly reduce the number of sentences they have to translate. And we use the questionnaires mainly to collect the judgments that one cannot say it, right? And actually the speakers like it because they are not get tired.
Thank you. Yeah, it's
Thank
very
you.
good. Nina, please, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Maria, for the wonderful talk. I mean, you mentioned at the very beginning that your work is not that experimental, but I actually see the great, indeed, experimental foundation of that, right? I mean, maybe indeed, in terms of quantifying the data, like how many certain constructions were used, would be, like, let's say, more a little bit experimental, but the instructions in order to elicit the discourse are also used quite widely. And I think it's also, I mean, the data that you already received would be also like already the great potential just to have a look at them from different perspective, maybe from the perspective of psycholinguistics, right? Trying to quantify them as well. But you have already received quite valuable, like, language material, I would say, right?
Yeah, right. I think you're right. Of course, one can actually run experiments after it, right? More strict experiments with strictly controlled conditions, of course. Well, but that's like the first stage.
Sure. Yeah. And it also gets then leads you to the idea of the experiment, right? When you control that, they definitely produce that structure, that maybe you will come up with those strict conditions come up with.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I think it was a very, very cool, very nice section. Thank you for all the speakers.
Right.
Yeah, we have a Google form in the chat. So for those of you who haven't filled it yet, you can fill it now.
Right, Anastasia, thank you very much for leading the last few talks. Thank you a lot. If you don't mind, I take the floor.